Hello everybody, a very warm welcome to this Meet Our Authors special event. It's sponsored by Scottish Friendly Assurance, organised by the Scottish Book Trust, and this is the first of two Meet Our Authors special events. The next one is going to be available on Thursday the 10th of November from the Scottish Book Trust website, and it's going to feature the Waterston Children's Laureate Julia Donaldson. Right now we have someone else for you to meet. Cressida Cowell is the author of many books for children and young people, and she is at the top of her game, one of the best in the country. She's on to the 9th book in the How to Train Your Dragon series, and that's just been published. And you probably know, I think you will know, there's been a very successful DreamWorks movie also called How to Train Your Dragon, out in 2010. As you can imagine, she's a very busy woman, so we are so lucky to have her with us today. I'm sure you're going to have loads of questions, yes? I think you are. Loads of questions to ask Cressida. She's very interested to hear from you. I think she can answer any question you throw at her. A final point before we get started, but it's very important as well. These will be learning resources available for this event. There will be learning resources, and you can download them from the Scottish Book Trust website. Now, please give a big, warm welcome to our author today, Cressida Cowell.
And I am the writer of the How to Train Your Dragon books. There's just 9 of these books now, because I've just finished the last one. Oh yes, here they are, 9 of them. I've written them all in 9 years. And I'm going to talk to you a bit today about what gave me the idea for writing the books in the first place. Because this is what lots of children write into me to ask, what gave you the idea? The Hiccup books are about, or the How to Train Your Dragon books, are about a Viking called Hiccup Horrendous Haddock III. And this is Hiccup Horrendous Haddock III. Now close your eyes for a second and imagine a Viking. I bet what you're imagining is not this. Yeah. You're not imagining this. What you're imagining is this. This is Hiccup's father, Stoic the Vast, okay? And he's what you imagine a Viking to be, huge and hairy, and he's shouting, "I declare a blood feud." But poor old Hiccup isn't quite like that. Can we just go back to Hiccup for a second? Yes, there he is. He's kind of a bit smaller than he's supposed to be, he's just not quite, he's a bit anxious, which Vikings are not supposed to be, but he's very clever, which will come in handy during the course of the books. And he's called Hiccup because he's sort of an accident. He's not what he's expected to be. He's a runt, actually, as we find out later on. He's a bit of an accident. You will also notice that he's heavily armed with axes, swords, bows and arrows, skis. I'll tell you about them later. But he's heavily armed because he is living in a world in which dragons really exist. Vikings believed in dragons. They thought that dragons really existed. And so that was my starting. It's always great to start a book with a question, or a film. What if dragons really existed? What would they be like? What would they look like? Yeah. And the whole series is answering the question, what happened to the dragons? Where are they now? Why don't you see a dragon wandering down the high street? I always say that when you're writing, it's like telling a really good lie, yeah? A real stretcher. And my job as a writer, or a filmmaker actually as well, or actors actually, they're sort of lying, aren't they? And my job as a writer is to tell that lie so that you believe it. Okay, so that it comes alive in your head. That's my job as a writer, okay? And so I have to put in loads of detail, that's one thing, and also it's good if a lie is based on a tiny grain of truth, okay? So, in fact, the Hiccup books were based on a real place. And this is the place. This is me writing in a very beautiful place, you can say, which is in fact, of course, Scotland. Yeah, Scotland. I'm not Scottish, you can tell. I'm from London. But I did actually spend quite a lot of time in Scotland as a child. This is me, about 9, writing away. I spent a lot of time in Scotland because my dad, although we lived in London, was a mad keen bird watcher. And he loves wilderness, okay, which you don't get a lot of in London, neither birds nor wilderness, okay. It's a great place, but it's not good for that. So he would take us from a baby. I will be taken to this uninhabited island off the west coast of Scotland, the Inner Hebrides, and we'd be dropped off by a local boat. At that time we didn't have a boat. And we'd picked up again 2 weeks later, 1 week or 2 weeks later. And there was nothing on the island. No roads, no nothing, no houses. An island so small that when you stood on the top of it, you could see sea all around you. Nobody there, no Tesco's, no Asda, no phone. If somebody broke a leg, what would happen? I still don't know. I still don't know what would happen if somebody broke a leg. But they didn't worry about that kind of thing. No, they were kind of gung-ho kind of people. Nothing bad will happen. I worried, but they didn't worry. Okay, so we were living in this place, and we were sort of living like Vikings lived, weren't we? We were living in a place where the Vikings really did come years ago, because Inner Hebrides was the place where the Vikings first came to when they invaded the British Isles, and it was the last place they left. So I used to sit on the top of the island. Imagine, what would it be like if you saw a Viking sail on the horizon, and there were these little ruined houses on the island. And I thought, who lived there? And I sort of knew what it was like in a tiny way. We weren't there for very long, although when my dad had a house built on the island, we would stay out for the whole summer. So we had quite a long, and we were going out in boats and in storms, because my dad, that kind of person. So I sort of had an idea of what it was like to be a Viking. So I knew what it was to be cold and go out in storms. So I can tell that to you, and it comes alive. And when you're on an island for a month, you do a lot of reading, yeah? Because there's no telly, with no electricity, you see, no telly. And so I did a lot of reading. I read loads of books, made up lots of stories, okay? But I knew lots of people who didn't read very much, strangely. So I thought when I was writing these books, I was going to make them so exciting, and also because my children watch a lot of telly and films, and I thought I'm going to make these books as exciting as films and telly, and I'm going to make them look exciting. So I'm going to even make the illustrations look exciting. The books are ripped through, the storylines are very exciting, and the books look like they've been attacked by dragons. See how this cover looks like a dragon has ripped it, you know, and maybe, you know, set fire to it. And I'm going to make it look like that. And sometimes I even set fire to the illustrations. And my children will say, Mummy, don't set fire to the house. But the whole point is to make the book look very exciting, and the storyline very exciting. Okay. And when I'm starting, here is a book called Treasure Island, okay? And the person who wrote this book said, before I'd written the story, I drew this map of Treasure Island, and as I was drawing it, the pirates came creeping out of the map at me. Long John Silver and all that. He hadn't thought of the story. He drew a map. And I say this to children, draw a map of your imaginary place and then write a story about it. It's a really good place to start if you're writing stories. Draw a map of your imaginary place and then write a story about it. Because it gives you an idea. Lots of stories started with maps. Peter Pan as well is down there. The writer said, the Neverland is a map of a person's mind.